So I'm starting to record, and you should see in the top left of your screen, you should see that red record button, and that warns you that it's being recorded. Students cannot record using Google Meet. However, just be aware, students can, there's always a way to record your screen. So they could be using a screen capture software. They could, if you post the video later, they could certainly record that. So just assume that anybody can record anything. Okay, so I'll go back to the slides. All right, so just to quickly recap, I'm not going to talk a lot about this, but Google Meet is really best for small groups. If you get your whole class in there, you'll probably spend a lot of your time asking people to mute the microphone. You can mute it for them, but they can turn it back on. You can kick students out, but they can come back in. The link that you provide for the meeting right now is going to be live for students to use whenever they want. That's going to change when Google rolls out some new additions. So in the next couple of weeks, all of this will probably change. But we're suggesting small groups, one-on-one help, office hours, and do talk to your administrators to make sure you're clear. Like, you know, some schools aren't sure about one-on-one meetings, etc. Okay, so here's a slide you could show at the beginning, and that's the statement right there under welcome that you need to read to the class if you are about to record. And so you want to read it out loud, not just have it on the slide. And then setting expectations. Here's a quick slide. This has gone out to, or will go out to elementary schools, just some tips. And then here's the one that is for secondary students. And so this gives them some technology tips like grid view and raising your hand and chatting. And then let's talk a little bit about how to invite students. So, and then if you have a question as I go, just go ahead and type that in the chat, which is right there. So I'll just put in like questions here, and then I'll get to those as soon as I can. Okay, so let's say you've started, you want to set up a small group meeting with students or schedule some office hours. So the best way to do that right now, and this is going to change because soon you'll be able to do it within Google Classroom. But for now, oh, and for elementary, you would still probably do this given that you're using Seesaw. So I'm going to hop over to my calendar. And let's see, I'll discard that one. And I decide I want to do office hours or a meeting with a selected group of students. I would like to do it tomorrow at 10. So on my calendar, I'm going to call this hours. Or I could invite my whole class to office hours and just hope they didn't all show up at the same time. So it'll be from 10 to 11. And I'm going to come on down here. I'm going to add guests. If I'm using Google Classroom, I do not have to type in all those emails. I'm just going to type the name of my Google Classroom. So I have a classroom called Graphic Novel Book Club. And I add the Graphic Novel Book Club classroom as my guest. And so that will go to all of the students. And we'll talk about how they get notified. But then we're going to add conferencing. So I'm going to use that button right there. And here's the link. And that will be shared to them on their calendar. And if you pull this button down, you could also add a live stream, which would mean they can watch you, but they can't enter, they can't ask questions. So that's also an option. Okay, so anyway, I've invited my classroom. I could invite multiple classrooms if I wanted to invite all of my students to the same office hours. I can start the conference call and get the information there. There's one more step though that's pretty important. I'm going to go to more options. And I'm going to uncheck these two boxes. We don't want students to be able to invite others because invited guests come right into your Google Meet. without, oh, and we definitely don't want to let them modify, without a prompt where you can say yes or no. So we don't want them to invite people. If a student shares the link, someone could try to get into your class anyway. You would get a pop-up notification and you could say no. Unfortunately, if they type a name for that for themselves, they can put in anything they want, and that's inappropriate, then everybody does see that. And hopefully some of these things will change as we go forward. Okay, so I have my invite, I saved my invite, but I really want to copy this information, and I'm going to put this into my Google Classroom, and I'll explain why in a moment. Okay, and then I would save that and create my calendar invite on Google Classroom. So here now I have my office hours scheduled right there, and there's how you get in. All right, any questions so far? Everybody's feeling okay about that? All right, so I set it up on my calendar, I copied the link. How do students know that I'm gonna have office hours tomorrow? So it's gonna depend on where you are. If you're in an elementary school, you will probably, and this depends on the policies that we come up with, or administrators come up with, probably contact parents through email or whatever and say, let's have a small group meeting or a one-on-one meeting, and you're there with your child, and you do that through email. And you send them the link so they can join. For secondary schools, Google Classroom, under classwork, you'll want to create, you can do either an assignment or a question. I'm going to do it as an assignment, even though it's going to be optional. And I'm going to say there's no grade, but I do want a due date because it's going to be tomorrow. I think it was 10 o'clock. I should probably check that. Okay. And then now it's assigned to all of your students. You could actually, yeah, okay. All students are going to get that. And I could say office hours, Thursday, 10. And then I need to go ahead and put in the information and assign that. So students are going to get an email as long as their notifications are set so that they will actually get an email, which students set themselves. There's no way to force students to get those emails. So remind.com might be a good, so the question is, why assign it for a certain time rather than just placing the information and links into the stream? The reason I assigned it is I wanted to have a due date so it shows up on students' calendars and also shows up on their to-do list. So I'll show you what I mean here. So I've got my to-do list here, and students have this, and they can take a look and see what they have for the day. And so they can see, for example, that there are office hours here. They can also go to their calendar, and then they'll see it on their calendar. So you could put it in the stream, but if it's scheduled for a certain time, I think it's better to do an assignment or a question with a due date. And then if you don't have a Google Classroom, I think you would it be because you're having it, I guess I'd ask, what is the best way for you to contact your students then? If you're trying to meet with particular students. You can send them the link through email if they're checking their, okay, then you just start an email to them and you paste in that information about with the link or the nickname and tell them what time. Okay, so let's see. Let's see, we talked about unchecking those boxes, don't let them invite others, share it to your classroom, email it to your students, use remind.com or Seesaw for elementary. Okay, so yeah, parents are going to have to help the youngest students, of course, to join. And then let's talk for a minute about the management tools. Paula, did that answer your question? Great. So you've got grid view, which you might be familiar with. You'll only see this on a Chromebook or a laptop. You won't see it if you're on an iPad. And you can toggle that on and off. For example, if you're not seeing my presentation clearly, then you'll want to turn grid view off so that you see it. Okay. And what grid view does is it gives me a nice tile here so I can see who's here. But if I'm presenting, you don't need to see everybody else's face. You could turn that off and just see my slides. Okay. And then nod over here. So you've got thumbs up, well done, wow, LOL. And I can go over to my settings and change that as well. So go ahead and give me a thumbs up if you've discovered how to do that. So I gave myself a thumbs up. Oh, excellent. Good. And students can raise their hand and you could call on them. If you're in a small group meeting with 1 to like 3 or 4 people, I wouldn't use this, and they probably don't even need to mute their mic if you're having a very small group meeting. But it's helpful if you have a larger group. Yeah, you're not going to have either grid view or nod, which is this tool here. If you're on a tablet or a phone, you have to be on the Chrome browser. It's on a, well, and on a Chromebook or desktop. Okay, some other questions. Okay, so Fred, you don't see your grid view up here. And make sure you're using the Chrome browser and not Safari or some other browser. Okay, you're in Chrome, huh? Refresh, refresh your screen, restart your computer. So CNS did push that out to everyone. You could install it yourself though. So you can say grid view extension. If for some reason you don't have it, you just Google grid view extension, and then I would have to remove mine, but you would install yours, and then you should see it. You might have to refresh or restart your browser. All right, okay. So the grid view extension is a little buggy for sure. Some helpful teacher maybe invented it last week or so and is updating it. But if it's buggy, that's probably why, because obviously we didn't know we'd need it. So Google is working on Google Meet, and they designed it for business, not for education. So it doesn't work always the way we'd like. Yeah, okay. Yeah, and if you're on the Safari browser, you won't see those at all. Okay. Yeah, and update your Chrome. Make sure you're in the most current version of Chrome. So you might want to check your settings and make sure that you're up to date with Chrome. Let's see. And yes, on a Mac laptop, as long as you are oh, the other thing that might be happening if you don't see grid view is make sure you're signed in and syncing to the district account, and sync is on. And if you're doing that on a personal device, be aware that you're syncing your district account to your personal device. You might not want to do that, but if you're on a district laptop, definitely have your sync on right there. And that's what'll bring in all your bookmarks and also things like Snap and Read and grid view and nod. All right. One thing that's coming up a lot is, can students meet without me in my Google Meet? Can students just jump in by themselves? And the answer to that, if they have the link or the nickname, and the answer to that is yes. There's no way to stop them. In the next 2 or 3 weeks, Google is going to roll out another way to start a Google Meet through Classroom, and that will fix some of those issues. But just be aware, yes, students could go back later. When you end a Google Meet, you will want to kick everybody out, and the way you do that is go up to the little people icon, and then I won't actually kick anybody out, but the little arrow there, and you can remove and you can mute. Be aware that if you remove someone, they can re-enter. If you mute someone, they can turn their microphone on. So again, that's one reason it's not well designed for large groups. Unlike something like Zoom, where there are lots of controls, we don't have a ton of controls here. What other questions? So a basic, okay. On Google Classroom, yeah, so if you look at the secondary resource document, there are some links to videos for Google Classroom, and then Chris and Carrie and Mary and I are working on a central portal where you'll have all that, but definitely take a look at those Google Classroom videos that are on the doc, the one that says, I think it's remote learning. I can look that up. Secondary remote learning teacher resources. And there are videos attached for all of the different tools that we're using. Some that we're all using, like Google Classroom at secondary or Seesaw at elementary, and then lots of optional tools that you're welcome to use. Okay. All right. What else? Okay, go ahead and type those questions in, or we can wrap up a little bit early. Oh, one thing I did want to show everybody is Google Meet is a great way to do screencasting. It's pretty easy. If you want to record yourself talking or teaching, or you want to demonstrate something, you can pop over and do a presentation and it will record that. You'll be in present mode and you'll be talking. And just like you see me now, you won't see your own face, but students will see you over here. We've been using it to do virtual story times and record books, so you can be reading a book. And the way you do that is you go down to, I call this the snowman, down here, and you would start recording. I don't want to stop because I'm recording the session. And then when you see the red square up here, you would just go ahead and do your presentation. You can switch over to a virtual whiteboard. There are lots of different free ones. Explain Everything is really good. Record that, stop recording. In 5 to 10 minutes, you get an email, and it has a link to your video stored in your Google Drive. Rename your video, so you could call it like, I don't know, book club meeting or whatever it is, or book club session, Civil War lesson, whatever it is. Change the permissions on that video file in your Google Drive so that your students can see it, because when it goes into your drive, it's private to you. And then push that link out to a Google Classroom or Seesaw, and you've got easy screencasting. Okay, when I'm scheduling parent meetings for our case managers, I use the parent's email. Exactly, yes. So as long as they're invited, and even if they're not invited, they could ask to come in. All they need is that link. So Google Meet is not like some of our tools where you have to be have a like Oswego email to get in. So whatever email they're using, they'll be able to come in as long as they have the meeting code. Yeah. Things that could happen. One is students share out the code or create fake accounts and try to come into your meeting anonymously. And that's what's been happening with Zoom, for example. People are coming in and the security settings aren't right and they're showing the class things that they shouldn't. You can refuse them, but if they have typed in and given themselves a name that's inappropriate, you and your class will see that as you're rejecting them and saying, no, you can't come in. Make sure that you're only having invited guests, because if they've been invited, even by somebody else, because you didn't uncheck that box, they could pop right into your classroom. Students are able to present their screen, so just be aware of that, but they should ask for permission and be careful about what they're presenting. Everybody should be careful about what's behind them, because we're all in our homes and you can see people's kitchens, their artwork, all of that. So just be mindful of that. All right. And then to get help or support, you can email me and Chris and Larry and Carrie, and we'll help you out. We'll have a meeting with you and figure this thing out. Oh, and just be aware that everything's changing every day, from the policies of the district to what the state is saying, to what we're hearing, to what Google's doing and making changes. So everything can change. Can you invite parents who have emailed? Yes, you can invite anybody as long as they have the link or the. Oh, well, that's a good point. You have to send them the link, not the nickname. So if you type in a nickname and give it a nickname, only people within the district can join. So parents who are not part of our domain at LSWeGo will need to have the link. Okay. I'll give you just a minute or two to ask any other questions. Okay. Yes, you have to hang up. Yes. So you'll slide to the bottom and you'll see the pop-up that has the, so you'll want to hang up. There's a little phone icon down there next to the mute your microphone. And then also, I am going to kick anybody out who didn't hang up properly. So I will be able to go up here to people. And remember, I'll be able to remove people who didn't leave. Now, remember that students could come right back in once you're gone for now, but that hopefully won't always be the case. All right, well, thank you very much. I'm going to stop recording and then make sure everybody's out of the meet, and then I'll hang up. But please do email me if you have any questions. Oh, one more question. Practicing before trying it with kids. Yeah, I mean, try it with me, with your colleagues, go to some staff meetings. It is a bit different. The more people you have in, the harder it is to manage. So and also when you're first starting with students, for sure, just do small groups. Maybe don't invite everyone to office hours. I would say, invite 4 kids to come at the same appointment, but not all of your students. It just gets crowded. People forget to mute their microphones. The all-class meeting could be kind of fun and chaotic, but you'll spend a lot of time just saying, oh, mute your mic, or this is how you do this. All right. Thank you. Good luck. Let me know what questions you have. I can also make screencaster videos to show you things as well. All right.